So now, voice. So now, with this snapshot playing with signs, it's a bit of weird concept, and it gets introduced early on with deaf children whose first language is ASL, because by the time they get to this point in language, they're using it every day. So they can play with concepts more than, say, we do. Hearing students do who are just learning a second language. Sorry. So sometimes in elementary level, teachers will introduce it because it's kind of fun. ABC stories, number stories, classifier stories. But one of the inherent differences is if your first language, or if you are one of your first languages is a manual language, you are used to using the hands as symbols, not as letters. In a spoken and written language, we use letters and we build everything from there, right? All words come from letters. We don't base it on sound necessarily because some letters have multiple sounds. So it's a base difference between, I'll just say, deaf students and hearing students, or deaf children, hearing children, is that deaf children are used to symbolic language. Hearing children usually are not. So when we talk about an ABC story or a hand shape story, where we're going to manipulate the hand shapes in ways that are different than we normally sign, that can freak out hearing students. And I'll show some examples. I'll embed them in this slideshow. So you can see a couple of different examples. But you have to remember that when we talk about hand shapes, We're only talking about how can we use this shape. Now, you don't know enough vocab to know all the different ways we can use this hand shape or this hand shape, how this is different than this or this hand shape. What you see is an L, an A, a kind of weird A, an O, an I, right? So it's a vastly different thing when an ASL first language user looks at this hand shape, because they're seeing all the different ways they can use this shape, not the letter A. So 3 of the ways that I will give examples of are classifier stories, and that's where you're not actually using any vocab. You are just showing, you're using the hand shapes um, to show stuff. Another way, and I'm going to add this in here. I'm calling it, oh, I should put periods because that looks weird. Okay. I'm going to call it VV. Actually, I'm not going to call it. That's what it's called. Visual vernacular. And it is an international version of classifier stories. Now, the classifier is what we use when we say like a car went this way, or the person walked in front of me. That a classifier story happens within a manual language where we have set classifiers that we use. Person, old person, or someone who's like hurrying and running. A small furry creature is often this hand shape. So a classifier story is within the language. ASL, we could tell a story like that. We could also use what we call visual vernacular, which is not language specific. So we will use our hands and our hand shapes as images that are more international, based on what they look like, not necessarily other signs, and how we use it within a language. And again, I'll show examples of that. It's a little hard to wrap your brain around, but if you just kind of watch it, it will make sense. And actually, one of the videos I can show explains visual vernacular, so that can help. There are also hand shape stories. If you pick one hand shape and tell an entire story using that. So if I just wanted to tell a story with just this, a tree and the leaf fell and the wind blew and that leaf flew off. Okay. So they tend to be simple, but a skilled signer can really play with them. There are also ABC stories and number stories. Let me do A, B, C / number story, where we take a set pattern. Most of the time, A through Z, 1 through 5, 1 through 10, sometimes backwards. Sometimes they'll spell. I remember one where someone spelled out San Francisco, showing the Golden Gate Bridge, using the hand shapes of the letters. So those are a couple different variations. I'll show some videos of them. I'll probably show some in class as well, but I'll try to put them in the slideshow so you get an idea. But it's a little early to be playing with the signs right now, but to give you an idea of what people can do. And sometimes they get incorporated in conversation and dialogue. Not for TWA ASL as of yet, but who knows? It could just show up. All right, so that's the playing with signs. So this is a generic sign for music. It really is a sign for like hearing things, because poetry, like English poetry, tends to be like this poetry, where ASL poetry is this. It comes from the heart, an expression. I think I can move this. Hold on a second. Yeah. Get that out of the way. Okay. To party or mingle, socialize, going out on a date, or remember the OSV, date, go out. And you can like be together, dating, out to eat, out to a movie. Pool tends to be, like, here's the pool cue, right? I know in bad form, but whatever. Chatting or chatting. This tends to be specifically signing. Visit or visit, and again, it can be directional. Playing cards, playing games, playing board game. And if you're going to be specific about something, you could add board game, card game, video game. Horse riding. Here's the person getting on the horse, right? Horse riding. Camping. So if it's a tent, right? Here's the tent, and then you're just showing you're pulling them down. Tent. Camping. Beach can either be the water coming up onto the sand or this direction. So you can see it from many different directions. Sometimes people beach, just fingerspell it. Swimming, not this, swim. Fishing, boating, here's a little boat. Now water skiing and snow skiing, we tend to do water ski, snow ski. Okay, snow ski. New sign that we don't see it much here, but boarding. So here's like the board. I've oftentimes seen this. It tends to be an older sign or this, but they're all in. TWA has been showing this in the videos. If you always, with all the vocab, go look at them in the what's the sign to see what other variations are. Wakeboarding, water. And in the what's the sign, they also show how you can show like the board itself. So like a skateboard versus a wakeboard or a surfboard. So they show some variations that are worth looking, especially if they apply to you. So again, snow skiing, water skiing, snowboarding, waterboarding, waterboarding. That's a interrogation technique. We're not going to learn a sign for that because why? Okay, hockey, fingerspell, or hockey, little X, or that's the hockey stick, how it's bent. Hockey, and there's the ice. Ice skating tends to be just the X's. Cross country skiing is bigger ones. They don't show it here, but I'm just showing it to you. Ice skating, and there are variations again in the what's the sign. Skateboarding. Let me pause this. So the easiest way to show with these is skateboarding. So the wheels are basically connected, right? Skateboarding. Versus roller skating, which is like we did with skating, right? Roller skating. Inline skates are like this. Okay, so roller skating, ice skating, inline skating or roller blading, and skateboarding. Now, there are also variations of skateboard. Here's the board, here you're pushing off. And I've also seen skateboarding. So there are different variations. Playground or play area. Walking. And I think I mentioned with the previous chapter, or it might have been 6.1, that you can use the 3 hand shapes for walking. I will recommend using this. It's clearer. Biking. And this means bicycle as opposed to motorcycle. Running. And sometimes you'll see running. One textbook, the Signing Naturally textbook that we used to use, does this for running. I've never seen that anywhere, running. Disc golf. Miniature golf. I don't know what they put it. Golf should be first, right? So golf or golf. Miniature golf. I've also seen mini golf. But, mini golf, I don't know. I've seen it. I've seen it more as a play on words than actually be used. But in some communities, they may do that. Baseball. Baseball. I've seen this for softball, but most often people do this for softball. Basketball. Football. Now, football and wrestling are different. So, football, wrestling. Karate or karate. Karate. I've seen both variations, or just martial arts in general. Boxing. As opposed to fighting. Boxing. Volleyball, and some people will do it with different fingers. If you watch the videos, sometimes they do it with. I almost never use my ring finger for anything. Soccer. So you just kick your hand. Bowling has two different variations. Some people do bowling this way. Some people do it this way. Bowling. Tennis, as opposed to ping pong. I never hold it this way. Whack your fingers. So ping pong, tennis. And most racket sports, similar thing. Racquetball. If there's any kind of variation, if you're being specific, you would give what's the difference. Like, is it in a room for racquetball or squash? Right. Badminton, bird. So the bird, and I've seen some people do like bird. Olympics, Paralympics, Special Olympics, and Deaflympics, right? Okay, so those are the main ones you'll see. And again, it's Olympics and then with whatever the preface would be. So we do group discussion in class. So I'm going to do a vocab of all, or a simple video with all of the vocab in just a minute. So I'll post that a little bit later. And then I will also do assignment advice. So I'm going to do a separate video with that so that this doesn't get too long. So that's it for 6.3.